Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're holding this community open call to talk about updates to our Rocket.Chat support policy and make sure that workspace owners are well prepared to take action to make sure that they're running supported versions of Rocket.Chat. We are aware that for some workspace owners who are running very old versions, there may be questions in terms of the policy, some of the reasons why we need to do this, and also just some questions about the logistics and mechanics of updating your workspaces. So, as I think people know, we've been having a lot of announcements in our forum, in banners being pushed out to workspaces for visibility, and many emails that we've sent out so everyone is aware. So we're glad you're all here. I know we have a lot of other people also who are registered who will receive the recording afterwards, and we'll try to cover as much information as possible. So the way that we're going to run the session today is we're going to go through a list of questions that were submitted to us when folks registered that really relate to kind of generally what is happening with the support policy. So we'll go through those questions during the first portion of the call, and then we'd like to open things up for specific questions that people might have in relation to their own software update process. Okay, so the questions tab that everyone has within the conference here can be used to submit questions. The way that we set it up, since people might not want to share specifics of their environment, is any questions that are submitted will be visible only to the moderators, so Christina, Aaron, and I, and we'll respond to them. Okay. One other thing is we'll try to get through as many of the questions as possible. There may be some really technical ones that come up that require a one-on-one discussion to help you guys out. If you are stuck in terms of the mechanics, the technical side of your update process, please feel free to put your contact information in a question, ask us for a one-on-one follow-up, and we will try to manage to work through those on a best efforts basis. If we get a small number of them, great, we'll be able to do that. If we get a huge number, it'll be challenging, but please feel free to do that if you have a very specific question on your update. Okay? All right, so let's jump into things. I'm going to flip through a couple things. So we'll spend probably, I think, about the first half on the community questions that have been submitted already. We'll spend time on live Q&A. Like I said, please feel free to ask anything as we go through. I have the questions tab open, so we'll address those items, and then we'll close things out from there. Okay. All right. So to jump in, community questions. Again, these are questions that were submitted when people registered for the session. So I'll go through these. Aaron, jump in if you have anything to add during this section, so that people don't get too bored listening to me. But first, your workspace is running an unsupported version of Rocket.Chat. That is the warning that is appearing on mobile apps and our desktop apps as well. What does it mean? So to be very, very, very clear on this, I'm going to start with foundationally what is happening in case anyone is unclear. So historically, Rocket.Chat has always had a set support window. And for versions that are within that support window, which is 3 months for minor releases after the next version, or 6 months for major versions, we provide active support. And what that means is if you're a customer, you can call up support and we'll help you resolve issues. If there are any bugs or regressions, we address those. We patch those versions for functionality issues, and of course, very important, security patches within that window. Once versions fall outside that window, we don't do all of those things, right? We can't support every version of the software that was ever released. But what we have done is we've tried to be very generous and flexible with the services that we provide around the supported releases, around all releases. So historically, even though versions are outside of the support window, they're expired, they're no longer supported, we still allow those older versions to connect to our cloud services. We still allow the mobile apps to connect to those older versions. We allow the desktop apps to connect to those older server versions as well. And over time, as I think everyone can imagine, that gets more and more difficult to do, right? Because we have to allow for all the differences in the versions when connecting to cloud services, when mobile apps are connecting to those versions. So what is happening, and the change that we've been announcing over and over again, probably to the point of being annoying, is that on November 20th, if you're running a version of Rocket.Chat that is outside of the support window, you will not be able to connect to cloud services that we offer and we run. You will not be able to use our published mobile apps and desktop apps to connect to your server. So it's a big change. And what that means is that we're warning everyone, you need to update to a current supported version. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through, let me just quickly try to make sure that the questions tab is up. Christina, as we progress, and by the way, we'll be going through all the questions that are posted once we've gone through the first ones, but if there are ones I should address in the meantime, Christina, please let me know. Okay. Okay. When does the support window expire? So to add in terms of changes of what we're doing, we want to make sure it's clear and easy to understand exactly when each version expires. So as I mentioned, in the past, we've had the policy based on 3 months for minor versions after the next release comes out, 6 months for major versions. We've actually changed the policy and updated it to be longer and more predictable. So from here, effective now, every version is supported for 6 months after its release. Okay. So in effect, that's a longer window for every release. It's very predictable. You don't have to keep track of when the next release comes out. For every version of Rocket.Chat, it is supported for a 6-month period. Okay. One thing to keep in mind as we go through this, as you update your software, think of it in terms of 2 steps. First, make sure that you are current, but also think in terms of that regular cadence of making sure that you're going to be updating on a regular basis. We live in a world where we are constantly investing and scanning for any potential vulnerability, right? And we want to focus on that and make sure that all of those potential vulnerabilities are preemptively patched. So we're doing that regularly. We do that within current versions. We do that within supported versions. So if you fall out of support later on, you'll have the same issues with accessing cloud services and mobile apps. And also, again, you're potentially opening up your workspace to vulnerabilities, which can be very real. Okay, so keep those in mind. All right. Okay, and like I said, I'm going through all these general questions, and we'll start cycling through the ones that are being submitted. Thank you all for submitting these. So what is the minimum version to upgrade to? At this point in time, 6.3 is the minimum version that everyone should be updating to. Okay. As of today, the recommended version, my recommendation of what you should be updating to is 6.4.5. Okay. That is a release that we have a lot of large scale organizations running. It has been very stable. 6.4.5 is what I would recommend. That is the most recent release that we have. Okay. But the minimum is 6.3. Okay. Okay. So why do we decide to update the version support policy? And I know I touched on this a little bit, but let me reiterate a couple of important points. So first, the cloud services that we offer, and when I say cloud services, think of it as our push notification server, the omnichannel gateway, and our marketplace, our app marketplace. Each of those services that we provide them to all workspaces. It doesn't matter if you're a customer running enterprise license or if you're a community edition user. But we also put a lot of resources into running those services. Similarly, on the mobile app side, as everyone knows, we're regularly updating our mobile apps. We're regularly updating our desktop apps. That is all work done by the core team. We have situations where for very old versions, we have to actually handle in the code different situations that account for different behaviors of older versions. We can't continue to do that, right? So we can't continue to offer cloud services to older unsupported workspaces. We can't go through the additional work to do the same on the mobile and desktop apps. And also from a practical perspective, you have to keep in mind that if workspaces are not staying up to date, we cannot be comfortable that they are fully secure, right? Very old versions have known unpatched vulnerabilities that really each workspace owner should be updating and ensuring that those items are addressed by staying current, right? If workspace owners are not making those updates, we can't continue to provide access to cloud services in the mobile and desktop apps. We do provide choice though, right? You don't have to do this in a pure open source world. You don't have to, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. We really do recommend that you update, but if you choose not to, we can explain what that means. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to continue through these pretty quickly so we can get to all the questions, since I think we have quite a few coming in. Okay. Self-hosted, community-based also need to update. Yes, absolutely. If you want to continue to have access to cloud services or use the mobile and desktop apps, you do need to update to a current version. That is required in order to continue to have access to those services that we provide. Okay, so it's not a differentiation for customers versus community. It's not a differentiation in terms of how you host. SaaS, obviously, our host environments, we update regularly anyway, so it's not really applicable, but it is 100% applicable here for self-hosted community workspaces. Okay. Okay. So can I stay on my current version? And I'm glad that someone asked this question because I want to explain that. So the short answer is yes, you can, but there's an important qualifier. Yes, you can, but that workspace will no longer have access to cloud services. Yes, you can, but for mobile and desktop apps, you will have to manage your own mobile app. You'll have to publish it to the App Store or distribute it manually using our open source code. And we can, and that code will continue to be available. That code is continuing to be available under MIT license. You can choose that if you want to, but there's quite a lift involved. Okay. If you want to use our published Rocket.Chat mobile and desktop apps from the app stores, you will have to be current. Okay. So if you choose to stay on your current version, we really are about providing choice here. You guys can choose. But if you choose to stay on a very old version, if you have a valid reason to do that, keep in mind that mobile and desktop apps, you will have to manage them yourselves. Push notification server, which you can use via cloud services, you will have to set up and manage your own push notification server. Okay. Omni-channel apps. If you use any of the omni-channel customer communication apps, that communication goes through our omni-channel gateway. You will not be able to use those. You'll have to develop your own. Apps Engine is a great tool. That is something that is certainly possible. And then same thing, any other apps that are currently available in the marketplace, you will not have access to those apps, but you will be able to continue to develop your own. Okay, so key thing here is choice, right? So we are heavily recommending that you stay current. We're requiring that you stay current in order to access cloud services and mobile apps. But if you choose not to, you do have those other paths. Okay. All right. Okay. So what will happen to the apps that you currently have installed? So if you stay on, there are a couple different scenarios. If you stay on an old version, those apps will stay as they currently are. They are installed in your workspace. Okay. If they don't have any dependency on cloud services, omnichannel gateway in particular, then they will continue to function. If they have a dependency on omnichannel gateway, they will not. Okay. And you'll need to find an alternate solution to those channel connection points. Okay. That's in the scenario where you do not update. Okay. If you do update, the apps that you're currently using will continue to operate. You will also then have access to additional marketplace apps that require minimum versions of Rocket.Chat that you may not qualify for. So for those who use marketplace, you'll notice we have quite a few versions of apps that require 6.0 or 6.1 or 6.2. As soon as you update, you'll have access to be able to use those apps as well. Aaron, anything do you think I missed anything on there? Any other scenarios we should highlight?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you are sideloading apps, is also unaffected. I don't know if I didn't catch if you mentioned that or not, but yeah, those aren't also not affected.
Yeah. And good point. Any of your side-loaded private apps that you've created, they're not impacted. You can continue to do that. Obviously, moving up to a new version, especially if you're jumping through a couple of versions, you're going to want to be testing and evaluating those apps to ensure that they operate in the way that they have in the past. That's a good point. Okay. Okay, will the limitations be applied retroactively for mobile and desktop, or only if I update the mobile and desktop versions? All right, so good question. If you choose to use an older mobile and desktop version, no, we're not going back in time and changing those versions. Okay, just keep in mind for managing your users, you'll have to have them use that older distribution. You'll have to have people make sure that they're not updating their device if they're using an older version that's from the App Store. There's a little bit of backflips around doing that, but no, we have no intention to go back in time on the older versions and have any sort of lockout. That would go against the spirit of what we're trying to do here. Okay, Aaron, same thing. Anything I should add on that?
No, I mean, I guess I would just stress, right? Like, if you don't upgrade the app, like you're still vulnerable to, any, if some new vulnerability comes out. Like I think a while back, there's a WebP, I think it was vulnerability, right? And if you don't upgrade your app, you're not going to get those sort of fixes. So like, it really is in your best interest to keep your apps up to date. So while, yeah, you can, it's really not recommended.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It goes back to choice. We're not taking the choices away, but to really emphasize it, we are stressing the importance of staying up to date. It should be part of your normal cadence as a Rocket.Chat workspace administrator to ensure that you're staying current, to ensure that you are incorporating all of the different security improvements and patches as they're made available. Okay. Okay, how do we update Rocket.Chat and MongoDB with Snap without losing data? So yes, we absolutely should not lose data, but Aaron, I think this one's for you.
I think this one might be aimed for me, yeah. So I think one of the important things, I guess, with all upgrades is you should back up first, right? So I think that kind of goes to the without losing data portion. Always back up. I think even if you're going between two miners, I always back up, right? Because if you don't back up, then, you do have the risk, I think, always, even if just with data corruption or something to happen, like you want to back up. So back up. But as far as like upgrading Snap, so once you do the backup, like our Mongo upgrades are actually handled automatically inside the Snap. So kind of one of the beauties of the Snap format is like it's really meant for the small server installs that you don't really want to have to do a lot of like manual intervention. You want to be able to just upgrade. And so we handle the Mongo upgrades actually inside of Snap. So if you go from like 3.0 to 4.0, 4.0 to 5.0, etc., if the Mongo version is needed to change, we actually handle that inside of the snap update mechanism. So the snaps are, that process is really handled for you. But of course, like I said, always do a backup beforehand. That way you're kind of protected regardless. And so I think in general for all methods, right? Not just Snap, but if you're doing a Docker related, do a backup. Then you really are kind of shielded from any sort of possible case where you might lose data.
Yeah, makes sense, and it's always a good policy. With every single update, you should back up, and everyone should have a standard backup cycle on their workspaces, regardless of
Absolutely.
updates. Okay. All right. So live Q&A. This is the fun part, right? The less predictable part. But we've had questions coming through, and so let me. I'm gonna read them through. We'll probably be a little bit stilted as we go through and we absorb each one. But I am starting, Aaron, at the top of the list. So Wilhelm starts with, we're on version 4.3.2 with Mongo 4.027. Data export from MongoDB and import on a supported version throws a lot of errors, which is why they stopped updating. Is it this one that you can speak to get started?
Yeah, so I guess we can give this one a shot. So I think the depends on what version you're going to, right? So if you're trying to go directly to 6.4, I think one of the key things is I think the Mongo version has to change as well. So you need to make sure if you're doing a Mongo dump and a Mongo restore, you need to make sure you do the dump on the 4. Looks like your Mongo 4.0.27. So the Mongo dump there, upgrade your Mongo. If you're doing a clean install, which it kind of sounds like you might be, make sure you have like the version of Mongo up to, I think it's like 5.0 is the current supported. So make sure you get on the Mongo 5.0, then do the Mongo restore there, and then start Rocket.Chat back up with the 6.4 afterwards. I think there's a great forum post that we have created by with like a document and a video created by one of our team members that goes through the process of upgrading. And I think it typically, for the best, best success we've seen going from one major to the other. So if you're on 4, go to 5, and then from 5 to 6. And that kind of gives you the best, like the least amount of changes at a time. So because with each major can come some breaking changes, mostly in terms of like the Mongo version, right, will change between them. If like Mongo falls out of support, we have to upgrade and we have to require an updated version of Mongo. That way, we can actually support and get support from Mongo. So usually we go from like one major to the other. So you could, update your Mongo to 5. You do your restore there, and then upgrade your Rocket.Chat to 5. The latest 5.x. Then once that's up and started up, then do the same thing and get to 6.x. But you only need to do the Mongo part once, right? If you're moving from one Mongo to the other, do that restore on 5.0, and then just walk your Rocket.Chat version up, and it should work. I think this is a good case though. If you have further issues, like drop your contact information, and we can kind of follow up on this one.
Yeah, and to add on to that, because if you drop your contact info here, again, it's just visible to us. We will follow up, and then for all participants, whether you're on here live with us or listening afterwards, also please feel free to use the support channel, which is there for community support on our open server. So you use the Rocket.Chat open server. Go to the support channel. You can ask these questions. We will be monitoring to try to provide assistance as we go from here. Okay.
I'd also mention there's a upgrade help category in the forum if you would prefer to write all your details out at once. It's also a good place that we're actively monitoring.
Yep. Good point. Okay. Carlos has a question. How can I load a database created by installing Snap into an advanced packaging tool? installation.
Okay. Yeah. So this is Snap is you can do it. We have commands in there for doing a dump. So if you look at our documentation, there is a Mongo dump command for the Snap, so you can export your data that way. And then as far as like the other, I think it's just that, like what you said. Basically, you just do a Mongo dump there from the Snap, and then go and do the restore in your your Debian or Ubuntu installation that you've installed Mongo on. Do your restore there, and then you should be able to start Rocket.Chat up, point it to it. One caveat, I guess, to make sure to point out is for legacy reasons, we have the database name and Snap as parties. So just make sure that whenever you're setting your connection URL to actually use parties as the database name, or if you're doing the Mongo restore, you can use basically just like a ns2 and ns_from flag where you can actually rewrite the database name. So if you didn't want to have parties as your database name anymore, you can make that change. This is something we're trying to look into eventually, like figuring out how to seamlessly migrate the database name. But as you can imagine, that's kind of a little bit more cumbersome. It touches data. So we're kind of hesitant to do that. But that is one caveat to make sure that you're aware of. Going from a Snap to install, like most of the installation refers to the database name is Rocket.Chat and like the connection string. Just swap Rocket.Chat out in the connection string with parties. And then that's the most common issue I see when people are switching. Is they're like, oh, the database is empty. Rocket.Chat, like my data didn't get restored. It did. It just got restored to a weird database name that you need to make sure to specify in your connection string. But yeah, we've seen this. We've seen people do this, right? So there should be, it's not an unproven path. It's pretty frequent that people want to move to something with a little more control.
Yeah, and Carlos, as we noted, please feel free to post in the support channel on Open or in the upgrade thread that we have in forum as well. Topic, I guess, is how we refer to them in forum, and we can provide additional details as we go. Okay. I think we have a couple of questions that go together from Fabio. I think these are connected. He's asking, so our mobile apps will stop working, but the local desktop client will still work. So in short, no. So the mobile and desktop apps will require you to be on a current version, right? 6.3 or higher. And both of them will continue to work if you have updated. If you have not updated, both of them will not work. But keep in mind with the desktop app, the desktop app is essentially an Electron wrapped version of the browser experience. So on desktop, you can continue to access your server via normal browser session the way you have. That will not be disabled, but the Electron desktop app and the published mobile apps will require 6.3 or above. Okay, hopefully that clarifies. Okay. All right. We have a question from Michael, which also might be. Okay, I'm going to go in reverse.
I think Michael, I responded there. It looks like there's an issue with upgrading on Docker. We'll definitely need some logs, I guess, to be able to help kind of go through and figure out what's going on. I think he's got a forum post started, so I think we follow up there. Or again, if you want to post contact information, but this sounds very specific to some things happening while upgrading. So we'll need to see those logs to see exactly, what might have failed to help you out.
Okay. Yep. And that's, I assume, Aaron, that's in the upgrade topic on forum for anyone who wants to check it out and see the details in relation to the Mongo handling moving from 4.0 up to 4.4 to 4.8 and the issues that are arising. So if anyone's running into similar issues, please take a look at that topic. Okay. Okay. Wilhelm has a question. Looks like we have a partial answer on this one. I'm just going to read through it real quick so we can share it with everyone else. We're using Rocket.Chat as an internal chat application. Our server is not connected to your workspace. We're not using the mobile client. possible to log into the server with the desktop client for chatting. So again, to clarify, desktop app, the Electron desktop app or mobile app, no, you will not. A regular browser session, yes, you absolutely will be. And again, we do, just like in all of these cases, we do encourage you to update, but you will continue to be able to access via browser session, just as you have in the past. If, on the other hand, as you specify, you don't use the mobile client, but if you do need a desktop app and you're choosing not to update, you would have to use an older version of our desktop app, which you would then be responsible for distributing. Okay. Okay. Okay, quick note on Rama's question in terms of the supported version, 6.3, again, just to keep emphasizing it. The supported version durability page, we're actually going to be clarifying a few of the specifics on there to reflect the change that we've made. Again, we've expanded the support window out to 6 months for every version. It doesn't quite say that as clearly as I would like yet on that page. So we will update that. It will state it very plainly. So that way, as we go forward, you don't have to keep track of when a release comes out. You can always go there, check, and it will have the end of life date for each version. Okay. All right.
So I see, I think, a couple follow-up questions about I think still maybe a little confusion on the desktop app not working with self-hosted. I think it's important to call out, like the desktop app still has to, kind of like the mobile app, right? The mobile app has to be able to, historically, like we've had to keep backwards compatibility, like use APIs that are, like we can't change the APIs in the Rocket.Chat side, right? Like we have to keep using the same APIs, or if the API changes, then we got to add like weird kind of kludges in there to kind of say, okay, if you're on this version, use this API. If you're on that version, use this API, right? So it's very complicated. And the same thing kind of works in the desktop app. Yeah, you might be on self-hosted, but if we keep having to add those specific things, that's what we're trying to kind of get past, right? Get kind of to where we can start to actually accelerate and move the apps forward. And I think so while it is self-hosted, there still are things in the desktop app that have to like go work with older versions of Rocket.Chat. And if we introduce new APIs, we can't use those APIs maybe if we don't. So that's kind of the situation we're in, right? And that's why, it does apply to both desktop and mobile, is we need to be able to use those new APIs to be able to deliver better features, but we can't. Or if we do, then it involves these weird, messy checks where you have to check for multiple versions. And when you do that kind of complex logic, it tends to actually cause bugs, right? So if we can keep it simple, it's really what we're after. We want to keep it simple and easier to make seamless. So that's kind of why, it does apply to both mobile and desktop. Is the situation's the same on both.
Yeah. No, that's helpful. Okay, so also have another note from Fabio, which I'd like to just kind of take everyone through. You're noting that it sounds like in the future your company has a mandate to migrate to Microsoft tools. That's unfortunate. I can understand why you're upset about that. But until then, you'll be using Rocket.Chat, and that's the case where you're running an older version, but not much older. 5.1.3 is still fairly recent. So in this particular case, please reach out to us via the support channel, via forum. We're happy to have a discussion with you about how to make sure to continue to have access to mobile and desktop apps and cloud services if you use them. The path is you update to 6.3 and you will maintain that access. Again, it's good operating policy to ensure that you're on the current fully patched versions. So Fabio, the path that we are 100% encouraging is update to 6.3, at a minimum 6.4.5, ideally. Another thing about it is when you do that, you will have access to a wider variety of tools available in the marketplace apps. And as you do that, and maybe what we do end up doing is making a case for your organization to stay on Rocket.Chat rather than moving to a Microsoft product. But please, on that, again, even if in the future an organization has a reason why they have to move to another tool, don't stop updating in the meantime. So remember, security, the value delivered by the product, the user experience of the product. You want to continue to make sure that you're staying up to date, even if you do reach a point in time where our platform is being replaced or you're using another tool. Stay current until that point in time. Let us know if you have questions on it, and we'll help you to do that. So Fabio, please reach out again, either on open or in the forum, and we will assist. Okay. Okay. So we actually went through. Oh wait, I'm going back up. Looks like we have new questions. Okay. We have a question from Skylar, and I'll read out. Going forward, with mobile apps and desktop apps only be compatible with supported versions of the workspace? So, also a good question. Yes, this is an update on how we manage our support window, which is always moving forward with different versions. It's not a single event, right? So, as you noted, when you update to 6.3, once it is out of support, you should be updating to the next version. Again, it's not a one-time thing. We're not asking people to update once. What we're making sure that people understand is that part of running Rocket.Chat is when we have new releases that are available, you should be staying current. You should always be staying current within a supported window. Okay. Our versions are cumulative, right? So if you end up skipping a couple of dot releases, and then you apply the next one, that is generally going to be okay. Keep an eye on security patches. Okay. If we have a security patch, we really do promote and push everyone to apply those security patches. If you don't, and you skip a couple of versions, it will be applied in the one that you update. But on a continuous basis, you should be evaluating each release, determining whether you should be applying it to your workspace. Again, focus on those security items, but it is an ongoing process, and you will need to stay within the support window. Okay. All right. I'm scanning to see if there are others that I missed. I do see a few people are asking about follow-up, so we're noting those down. Gunter asked, can I set up a new clean version and migrate just the data from the old version? So in short, yes, but there may be some database migrations that need to be run and such. Aaron, do you want to talk to that one?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to the case where it's like a dump and then a restore. The path to migrate is basically that, right? The Mongo dump, Mongo restore. So if you did want to, start with like maybe you're on Mongo 4 and you want to move to Mongo 5, you could do a Mongo dump up, get a new Mongo installation with Mongo 5, do a Mongo restore. But then again, you would still want to walk your Rocket.Chat version through because, as Chris said, there are data migrations that happen in each of those, especially in the major versions. Minor versions are typically not migrations, but they're on major versions, there are migrations where we'll change like the data structure. So you'll want to walk kind of those up. That way you go through those data migrations. So database, yeah, that's a really great way to do it, honestly. Do a dump on, if you're on 4.0, restore it onto a 5.0, but then, yeah, we'll just walk your Rocket.Chat versions up, and it should be a very seamless upgrade path. Again, there's I can send a link to the document page that one of our team wrote that does a really great job, like even has a video illustrating it happening with Docker. So like I find it a really valuable resource for kind of walking you through that process. I'll share that with you here in the answer.
That's great. Okay. All right. So we'll keep an eye on other questions that may pop up, but to kind of shift over now to I guess closing notes. I don't know if I had anything else on there. Oh, I have a slide that says closing notes. Always very helpful. But so a couple of things I wanted to bring up. So we have people together today, and a lot of people listen to the recording. So first, a couple of shout outs. Recently, we kind of shifted things up where the core team has started to post some cases where we have a particular platform issue, et cetera, that we simply don't have the capacity to get to, and putting out the call for community contributions on specific items. We had the first couple of those come in. So I just wanted to send a quick shout out to Abhinav Kumar for his PR helping to fix an issue with the Slack bridge. That is really cool. And then we Hardich Batia, and I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that, also submitted a PR and did quite a bit of work investing in a Unicode issue that we have. So I did want to kind of end with a couple of those shout outs. That's something that we're going to continue to do. So for those community members who are also contributors, please keep an eye out for those. We're coordinating those via Open and Forum as well. And those are great steps. So that's one key thing to note. And then secondly, just in terms of the update process and staying current, sometimes it's not necessarily about access to features. That is an area where each organization has its own use case, right? In some cases, it makes sense to get access to new features. In some cases, it doesn't. But to add on kind of one additional compelling reason to update. We've already talked a lot about security, and that's a very compelling reason, okay? Don't ignore that. That's something that's very important. But in addition to that, to highlight that the core team has also been investing heavily in accessibility. And it's something that we've decided as an organization is very important to us, to ensure that everyone of any level of physical abilities can use Rocket.Chat in a productive way. So, for example, in Germany, there's a set of regulations referred to as BitV, which kind of roughly overlaps with WCAG, which is a broader worldwide accessibility standard. We're now the only platform that is the only team collaboration platform that is fully BitV certified, which I think is really cool, right? So as we apply those updates and things, it can be things like color contrast and other usability things, those are in current versions. Those are largely in version 6 and beyond. Those capabilities, they're available to community. They're available to customers. There's no differentiation on there. So we really do encourage you guys to make sure that those accessibility features are available to your workspace users. Same thing, as I mentioned, BitV overlaps with WCAG and ADA in North America. So we've made a lot of advancements, and I definitely encourage you guys to take a look at some of those improvements and how they can potentially help your users of different abilities. So wanted to add that. As we mentioned throughout, if you have questions, please reach out in the appropriate forum topic. Please reach out on the support channel within Open. We will be actively responding to items. If you get stuck also, and as I mentioned, a few people added contact information, we will reach out. Depending on the volumes there, that's on a best efforts basis, but we'll do that. And I really thank everyone for your time and participation today. Okay. All right. I think that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining.